And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 65 of A Druid's Dozen. My name's John, also known as the Rock Druid, and basically this is just me killing an hour or so on a Saturday afternoon, going through my record collection, grabbing 12 items at random, 6 albums, 6 CDs, waving in front of the camera and chatting about them. I'm a radio DJ, links to both my radio shows are going to be down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook, and yeah, have a tune in. And because sometimes, well, at least a couple of these bands that I'm going to wave around in front of you today are going to show up either on the BCFM Sunday Rock Show or on the Rock Druid Show on Astro Radio. So yeah, check them out. But anyway, I'm a bit pushed for time today, so I'm going to try and make this fairly quick. So let's dive straight in. Going to kick off with a bit of metal. Here we go. This is Accept, Metal Heart, 1985. There is the front. There is the back. Whip this out. There is said disc on Portrait Records, and no run out groove message on this one, I'm afraid. Right, except of course classic German power metal legends, still going strong to this day. This is from their classic lineup in the early to mid 80s with Udo Dirk Schneider, who was it? Yeah, Wolf Hoffman, Jörg Fischer on guitar and between guitars, Peter Baltes on bass, and Stephen Kaufman on drums. Yeah, except did a whole string of great albums from that 1979 through to the kind of yeah, sort of like, well, they're still going strong, to be honest with you, and they're still bringing out some great albums. A couple of the albums from like this one, Russian Roulette onwards, maybe a little bit more commercial sounding, you know, compared with some of their classics like Breaker and Restless and Wild and Balls to the Wall. But, you know, they were never a band that sold out completely, and are still damn heavy. This album, like I said, pretty good. Not my favourite Accept album. That will probably be Restless and Wild. But this one is still got its moments. Favourite cut on here has got to be Screaming for a Love Bite. But there's also Dogs on Leads, Bound to Fail, the title cut Metal Heart, Midnight Mover, Up for the Limit, Wrong is Right. All good, heavy, heavy stuff. If you've not really heard Accept, you know, climb out from under that rock and give them a listen, especially if you're a metalhead, because they are one of the bands that, for me, define German metal, full stop. This album's a good enough place to start as any, and yeah, still available. So, yeah, our first one today, Metal Heart by Accept, 1985. Okay, next up, we'll have something a bit interesting on CD. Here we go. Moonblade, Live and Loud. There is the front. There is the back. Pop this open. There is the disc. Whip out the booklet. Well, it's not a booklet, it's a folded inlay really. But there's a better look at the front. There's the back. And if you just open this up, There's a picture of Mournblade having a party with a load of people on stage in Holland performing Bomber by Motorhead. Still taken from the DVD. Now, Moonblade were to me, one of the great cult bands Britain has produced. Band I first discovered back in the, well, it must have been about 84, Stonehenge Festival, saw them, and then they became quite popular at the old Granary Club in Bristol. First time they showed up, they pulled 30 people. When they came back about 6 weeks later, they actually sold the place to capacity and beyond just by word of mouth. These guys were brilliant. Stylistically, they were kind of like heavy space rock. They were somewhere between Hawkwind and Motorhead, and they were damn fine with it. Massive theatrical performance. Very, very talented frontman from Duncan Mullet on vocals. Just a great, great band. Sadly, they never really got the breaks they deserve. They did 2 studio albums back in the day. They did Time's Running Out, followed by their second one, which was Live Fast, Die Young. Toured with Motorhead, did lots of good stuff. So sold out venues over the country. Had record labels sniffing around like anything, but you know, they refused to relinquish control over what they released to the majors, and you know, they were bullshit indie boys, and would rather not sign something that meant them turning into a hair metal band, which apparently, speaking to a couple of members of the band, some of the labels wanted them to be, and called it quits. Now, 25 years later, they got asked to do a one-off reformation gig at the Metal Maniacs Festival in Hoorn in Holland, and they played the festival, and that was their comeback. They've reformed a couple of times since as well for one-off gigs. There's only occasional reformations because members live all over the world. Dunk Mullet, the vocalist, lives in New Zealand. One of them lives in the States, one of them's in Ireland, one of them's in England. And, you know, but they did get together to do a re-recorded version of the Time's Running Out album since. And then, of course, there's the 25th anniversary reformation gig live. And this one. Now, this was recorded between the 22nd and 25th of October in various London studios while they were preparing for the reformation gig. Various live blasts were recorded. Along with, they also recorded a single, which is their first and their only new recorded track for, well, since they broke up, which is Selling Your Ass to the Big Time, which is a classic track. The rest, this is on here. The rest of this is basically live in the studio, just going over and over the stuff that they were eventually to do on that reformation gig, and then the best versions were compiled onto this. Consequently, it's the same track listing almost as the Resurrection 25 Years live album, although it's different running order and some of the tracks are played in slightly different arrangements. Majority of the set is lifted from the Live Fast Die Young album. There are a few tracks taken from Time's Running Out, and then you've also got a couple of great covers. You've got the Damned's Neat, and also mentioned it earlier, Motorhead's The Bomber. It's a bit raw, it's a bit rough, it's a bit in your face, but it's remarkably played, considering these guys were in the room together for the first time in 25 years. It's pretty damn sweet, to be honest with you. Bit of a collector's item. This CD, the CD version was only a limited edition to, well, sort of like long-established fans and that kind of thing, which I'm rather proud that I got a centre copy, because being a long-established fan of Moonblade. Sadly, I didn't make the Reformation gig, but never mind. I live in hope that one day they'll get back together again, and I will be able to make the show. And but it's still available digitally via things like Bandcamp and SoundCloud and that, so you can still have a listen, although physical copies may take a bit of finding. But if you do, it's a sweet collector's item from a cult collector's item from a band that's already got cult heroes written all over them. Recommend this one immensely. Yeah, Mournblade, Live and Now, the studio outtakes album, and this is going to be 2013. Okay, next up we'll go a bit hippie, Man. Yeah, Man. There we go, there's the front. Actually, do it this way, folds out like this. This is Back Into the Future by Man. There's the front. There's the gatefold. And I'll just drag out, it's a double album, I'll just drag out one of the discs because they're all basically the same. And I did check for anything curious earlier. Sorry, that's up the wrong way. But yeah, basic for United Artists. Nothing on the run out grooves of either album. Now, Man were a band out of Swansea in South Wales. Formed in the late 1960s and ended up being kind of lumped in with the British acid space rock movement. Regularly appearing at events and gigs and festivals along with the likes of Gong, Hawkwind, Here and Now, etc. Band that still appear, I can't remember exactly whether Man are back together or on hiatus or whatever, but they do periodically get back together. And but back in the day, so this album's 1973, yeah. And I'll say it's a double live album. Sides 1 and 2 were recorded at the Olympic Studios in London, and side 3 and 4 were recorded live at the Roundhouse on the 24th of July 1973. This album came out tail end of that year. But Man used to do that a lot. There was a lot of kind of you know, one side studio, one side live, or double albums with one double sort of live disc and a studio disc. And this one is pretty sweet. I've got to admit, I do like this. The studio side, it shows the two sides of Man. The studio side is, it's quite straightforward. It's quite almost mainstream kind of classic rock. Yeah, it's a bit spacey, it's a bit hippie, a bit trippy, a bit psych, but you know, it's typical 1970s rock. Then you play the live side, the live album, and what you basically get is you get the opening by a special guest, the Gwylliam Malvoice Choir, singing, is it Soffenbach? Yeah, Soffenbach, classic Welsh tune. Then it basically goes into a series of extended jams. That just kind of go away with the fairies and some, and show what a great psych rock band that Man were. The performances on here are great. I say, studio side's good. The live side is absolutely to die for. The fourth side is just the the jam up jelly type jam, which is just it's about 25 minutes of mad Welsh experimentation, and just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, can't praise this album enough. Yeah, Back into the Future, 1973, man, cracking stuff. And if you've not heard Man before, get your hands on a copy of this. Vinyl copies can be a bit pricey, but it is available on CD and digital. So, yeah, Man, Back into the Future, 1973. Complete change of gear now. We'll have this. This is Prometheus, the Discipline of Fire and Demise by Emperor. There's the front. There is the back. Pop this open. That is what's behind the disc. There is the disc. Open this up. You have photograph and lyrics, more photograph and lyrics, more photograph and lyrics, etc. And there's some credits there, and some credits there. Now, Emperor, notorious Norwegian black metal band. So this album is 2001, I think. Yeah, 2001. But Emperor's origins go back to the late 1980s. They came out along with bands like Burzum, Bathory, all those kind, the real sort of like deep, heavy Norwegian black metal. And in their early days, they sounded a bit like Bathory and were naughty boys that burnt down churches, and they got very silly. If you don't know, Norwegian black metal, not only did they believe in all he worshipped the devil, devil horns kind of thing, and kind of getting into kind of not sky daddies, we're talking about fire daddies. Kind of, I think all religion sucks, to be honest with you, whether it's Satanism or Christianity or whatever. But anyway, these were devil worshippers, and to prove they were devil worshippers, they used to kind of they're involved in, I don't think they were actually convicted, but I know they were suspected in being involved in burning down historic Norwegian churches. Now, arson's not really a clever thing when you consider that one of the churches they destroyed was of key historical importance just for its artwork alone. That's another big slap on the wrist. And several of them were used as community centres for, things like blind kids, etc., as well as being a church. Yeah, it's not good, guys. And then a lot of Norwegian black metal bands at that point then decided they were going to try and emulate gangster rap, and had wars against each other, just the old East Coast, West Coast, shoot Biggie Smalls kind of thing. The Norwegian black metalers did the similar kind of thing, and these guys' drummer ended up going down for murder for 17 years. Yeah. However, the band kind of broke up mid-1990s, reformed around about 2001 to release this album. And one of the first things they did was apologise for some of their past actions and turn around and say that, it was, I think the quote was adolescent madness or something like that. And on their comeback, which is this album, their musical style changed as well. I don't know what it is, but a lot of Norwegian sort of the early black metal bands, etc., in the 2000s and beyond, have started to embrace prog rock. The classic example is Opeth, who Yeah, their first album is pure kind of I love the devil. Their most recent album sounds like bloody King Crimson. Good, well, all the better for it if you ask me. But anyway, these going in similar vein. Okay, this album hasn't quite gone the full opus. It's not quite kind of heading into Van de Graaff Generator territory, but it's getting there. The result is an album that's not too bad. I do quite like this one. Yeah, it's a bit of a concept work. It deals with the old Promethean story about the guy that goes to the underworld to steal the fire of the gods and ends up getting, he gets chained to a rock and have his liver pecked out or something like that as a penalty for it. But anyway, it's pretty good. It's got cuts on here. It's got the some of the tracks in here are quite long. You've got the first section, which is the 4-piece section of the Eruption, Depraved, Empty, and the Prophet. Other bits you've got He Who Sought the Fire, Thorns on My Grave. It's all pretty sweet, flows together nicely, quite well performed. I'm not the world's biggest black metal fan. I can appreciate it for what it is, and hence the reason I have some in my collection. But you know, and I have done black metal DJ sets live in the past, but yeah, not really my favourite subgenre of metal, but you know, this one's pretty sweet. Worth a check if you like it black and dark and heavy with a bit of a prog tinge. I'll give it a check. Yeah, 2001, Prometheus, the Discipline of Fire and Demise by Emperor. Moving song list, we'll have a bit of new wave. We'll keep it metal, but we'll go a bit of new wave of British heavy metal. Here we go. This is the official bootleg by Stampede, featuring tracks from the Mildenhall and Reading festivals. There's the front. There's the back. Whip this out. There we go. There's the disc. And nothing on the Radioactive Groove apart from a catalogue number. Now, I talked about Stampede's other album, their first studio work, or actually their only studio album, in a few episodes ago on this, Hurricane Town. Pretty good album. This is the album that preceded it. Came out on Polydor Records via their it was Polydor Records, 1982, and Polydor did this with a couple of metal bands they signed back at this period. For some reason they thought that metal's best played live, and it is. You know, you can't beat a live metal gig. But you know, so what they'll do, they tend to kind of put out a live album before they went in or put out a studio album. They did it with A to Z as well. Before they did anything studio wise, they put out a interesting kind of live album. But anyway, did it with Stampede, and I don't know whether it works or not. This is, don't get me wrong, this is a good album. This is well played, you know. But two things you've got to remember: these are festival recordings, and you know, speaking from experience as both a festival goer and someone that's played at a fair number of festivals, festival sound isn't always the best. You don't always get a great mix, because what normally happens at a festival is the headline band sound checks, the opening band may get a sound check, everyone else just gets a line check as you go on. And you know, so you know, and I know that Stampede didn't headline either the Mildenhall or Reading festivals in '82. Mildenhall, I think, was Uriah Heep. Reading was, I think, that would have been Reading 82. I can't remember, it definitely wasn't Stampede though, well down the bill. Anyway, the other thing is, you got an unknown band. Yeah, they may have been on the club circuit for a year or so before this was recorded, but you know, UK festival crowds, especially metal festivals in the 80s, it was almost like an ordeal by fire. You went on, the crowd gave you a hard time, and if you survived that, you won friends. I mean, the classic example, again from 82, was Twisted Sister at the Reading Festival. They got absolutely bottled, but because they stood up, gave the lip back, you know, it kind of endeared them to the arts of the metal heads, bizarrely. Yeah, unfortunately, fortunately, those kind of things don't tend to happen these days, but it used to be in the 80s, notorious for it. But having said that, this isn't a bad album. It's a little bit rough around the edges, as for reasons I just explained. Performances are adequate. I won't say they're brilliant, but they're adequate. The set's interesting. You've got three of the 8 tracks on here. 3 of them are from their first EP, their self-financed Days of Wine and Roses. You've got another 4 tracks that would eventually turn up, live versions of the songs that will turn up on the Hurricane Sound album. And then you've got a cut called Baby Driver, which is completely unreleased anywhere else. And if you're collecting Stampede and just want all their tunes, you're going to need to get hold of this to get hold of Baby Driver, because it was originally a demo cut that never got put out anywhere. Yeah, it's not bad. Bizarrely, I'd say that the 2 headlines are Days of Wine and Roses and the aforementioned Baby Driver are the standout cuts. But overall, it's pretty good. Yeah. If I was going to if you wanted to recommend a Stampede album to start with, I'll go for the Hurricane Sound album and only get this after you heard it, because like I said, live albums can be a bit patchy, and this is a little patchy, but it's not bad and worth getting to complete any new wave of British heavy metal collection. Yeah, 1982, the official bootleg Stampede. Okay, next up we'll have this. Another band we dealt with a couple of episodes ago. This is Not Above Evil. And this is the Transcendental Signified album. Pop this open. So there's the front. There is the back. That's what lays behind the disc. There is the disc. Slide this out. Just a basic gatefold there with some lyrics. There's the credits on the back there. Yeah, 2011 this came out. There's the press release that came with it. Now, this is the second full-length album by Manchester death metalers. I dealt with Deified, their first album, a while back. This is their second. I think they've done a couple since. Between the previous album and this one, they expanded to a 4-piece, bringing in another guitarist. But basically, Not Above Evil still remains the brainchild of Sadiq Mohammed, the rather superb bass player and vocalist. Again, we're talking dark, black, death, extreme metal territory. So these guys came out of Manchester, and this album's pretty good. Their previous album was good. This is a step on. The extra guitarist gives it a bit of depth. Cuts to look out for in here include Crossroads, Legion, Capture the Dawn, As the Curtain Falls. All fine tunes. Band are on fine form. I'll say, who else is there on here? Yeah, you got David Gwynn and the new guy Damien Levette on guitar, and then drums is David Muggs, and of course Sadiq Mohammed on bass and vocals. Yeah, pretty sweet. As far as I'm aware, the band is still active. They've got a couple of albums that come out after this. I think I've got one of them. I haven't got the complete set, but yeah, but it's all pretty sweet all the same. And you know, if you like a bit of kind of black and death metal, these are a good band. Yeah, Not Above Evil, the Transcendental, Signified by 2011. Not Above Evil, that's it. Okay, next up we'll have another album, another CD. Here we go. This is Feeder's Comfort in Sound, and this is 2002. There is the front. There is the back. There's not much behind the disc. There is the disc. And whip this out. And you haven't got lyrics as such. You've got friend of the band. Just listen to the songs and just kind of quoted a lyric and did a little kind of cartoon graphic illustrating some of the songs. Not all the songs, just some of them. Now, this album is quite I won't say dark, it's a sorrowful album. 2010, of course, well, Feeder come out in Newport. Throughout the 90s, they have built themselves a growing reputation of being a great live band that I used to love, and I still do really like Feeder. Out of all that kind of indie bands, Feeder to me are the dog's danglies. Right from the Swim EP through to the Millennial album to Echo Park, they just grew and grew and grew, building on a solid reputation of being a great studio band and an incredible live show as well. So 2000, Echo Park came out, a couple of massive hit singles including Buck Rogers. Then shortly after they finished the tour for it, drummer John Lee killed himself. Pressure got to him, and that was it. Band took a bit of time out soul searching whether they were going to carry on or not, and basically friends of John Lee and family turned around and said, no, you worked on this, you got the success you deserve, you carry on. And so consequently 2002 this album came out, a album that kind of is quite a hard listen. It was a big album, cut the biggest singles off it. Come Back Around, Just the Way I'm Feeling were both UK top 10 singles. The album itself was UK top 5. But, you know, I find this album a hard listen because this is the band going through their grief, going through their, it's bad enough losing a friend anyway, but when it's through suicide, that's the hardest cut of all. And, this is the band asking why. This is the band saying what, you know, chewing over, could they have done something about it? Why didn't the guy tell them what was going on, etc. If you've ever lost anyone to suicide, you know exactly where this is coming from. It's a good album, it's a great album, it's a powerful album, very emotive. Hard to choose a track. There is bizarrely, there's a couple of Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla on here, but you know, that provides a little light relief overall. But you've got, yeah, I can't really pick a favourite track. Title track maybe, Just the Way I'm Feeling, The Child in You. But you know, I do listen to this album, but not all that often because I find it a tough go. But having said that, this is still a brilliant album and shows Feeder for being the great band, and more power to the guys for bouncing back from such a terrible loss. So yeah, Feeder, Comforting Sound, 2002. And just a quick heads up, the brand new Feeder album, Torpedo, comes out end of the year. Okay, next up, we'll have something a bit hippie again. Here we go. Mother Earth and Satisfied. There's the front. There is the back. Slide this out and there you can see I paid 50p for this. This is a charity shop job years and years and years ago. One of these ones I just picked up, I thought, well, they look a bit hippie. I'll give it a grab, see what it's like. Yeah, and you can see it's Mercury Records. Oh no, it's 25p I paid for it, because you can see someone's written on the cover, 25p. And it's not worth a vast amount, but in my opinion, it was 25p well spent. Mother Earth, one of the Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, Deadhead, hippie, Flower Child kind of bands, yeah, Californian Lovin', West Coast rock, all that kind of thing, late 1960s. And well, actually I should check the release date. I think this album was 1970, this actually one came out. Yeah, it was 1970, it's their third album. But anyway, the band came out off that sort of like hippie scene. Regularly in their early days, gigged with the likes of the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Riders of the Purple Sage, yeah, all those kind of West Coast bands. And they had a fairly, like a lot of those bands at the time, they had a fairly fluid lineup. Boz Scraggs was their lead guitarist at one point, amongst the guy that went on to play drums with Jefferson Airplane, passed through their ranks along with various other people. A girl called, is it Christine Taylor, I think her name was? If it's not Christine, I apologise. I did look it up, but I can't look it up again because my tablet is what I'm filming on. So was the only ever present. A great voice. You can see there, she's only a little ditty girl, but you know, she had a voice a bit like Janis Joplin. You know, a lot of power in those diminutive pipes. And yeah, musically, this album isn't exactly. I mean, when I was doing research for this, I gave this album a listen, and then also managed to get my hands on their other three albums and give them a listen. And this, I'll admit, is probably the weakest of their three albums. It's still not bad, but you know, some of their earlier albums, including We Are All Animals or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, I can't get my notes up because they're on my tablet that I'm filming on. But this is still pretty good. So a band that, if you like the kind of all that kind of you know, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, all that lot. Oh, should be worth exploring, Brainchild, etc. Highlights on here include, let's have a look. We got The Groovy Way, Ruler of My Heart, Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me a While, You Won't Be Passing This Feeling. It's all kind of very kind of hippie, One Love, sort of like that blend between kind of psychedelia and country and American folk. You know, the sort of like, because around about this time, the Grateful Dead were recording Working Men's Dead and beginning to explore that kind of scene as well. So it's in that kind of vein. It's available on CD. Vinyl copies are still around. If you're in Europe, they're a bit harder to get hold of than they are in the States. But yeah, worth checking out. Earth Mother, Satisfied, 1970. Nice and hippie, man. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of this. In the Beginning by Wolfborn. There is the front. There is the back. Pop this open. There's Wolfborn themselves. 2014 this one came out. There is the disc. Pop this out. Lyrics, band photos. There's a press release. Now, as a little aside, there's something I'd like to pick up on this press release. It says, Wolfborn are an ambitious project out to create a record that would redefine rock music for the current generation. One of the biggest and stinkiest cliches you'll find in any press release ever. If you're in a band or you're putting out a press release, I'll tell you what, I'll do a separate video at some point about putting press releases. But that's called writing checks that you can't cash. Bearing in mind that, you know, rock music is 60 years old. There's very little that's new in the various subgenres of rock, and you know, claiming that you're going to redefine stuff when you come out with an album like this, which is pretty good, I'll give it that. I'm not knocking this album at all. It's a good album, but you know, if your definition of redefining an album is something that comes over a little bit like Mastodon, then you've redefined music, really. No, talking seriously for a minute. Despite bands will get it all the time. The bands will write big, the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you put it on you. And to be honest with you, it makes me as a DJ and a reviewer and a radio presenter disappointed, because they build this hype up and you expect, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing, and then you play it and it's not, or you end up listening to the album thinking this ain't going to be great, but your vision's already tainted. So, you know, don't big yourselves up that much, guys, if you're in a band, you're putting out a press release. But anyway, coming back to this album, as far as I'm aware, this is the only thing these people revolutionising rock music ever actually got around to releasing, and it's not bad. Like I said, it's a 10-track album. Actually, it's a 9-track album, with the 10th track being an acoustic version of Let It Rain, which is not one of the tracks on the album. I think was a single off here as well. It's pretty good. It kind of it's heavy rock with slightly kind of psychedelic and a little bit maybe funk kind of sort of like asides to it. It's well played, it's well produced, and better than a kick in the head. I mean, I have had bands that claim in the, you know, claim it to be brilliant and turned out to be absolute dog dirt. These don't fall into that category. These fall into the quite competent category, but nothing outstanding. Worth a listen. Highlights on here, my favourite cutting is probably Sex Sells, although the aforementioned Let It Rain's quite good. Stars Arise is pretty damn fine as well. But overall, it's pretty much of a muchness. It's pretty much it's a good, competent album. Do check them out. Do check this album out. But don't expect it to be earth-shattering. But expect it to be a good listen that will pass an hour or so, filling your eardrums with some sweet music. Yeah, 2014, Wolfborn in the beginning. Okay, next up we'll have a bit more prog rock. Here we go, there's the front. This is 7th Sojourn by the Moody Blues, and I think this one's 1970. I'll check in the middle. Anyway, it opens up like that. Opens up like that. There's the inner sleeve. You got that side. You got all the lyrics that side. (1972). There we go. Actually, the inner sleeve, I didn't notice this before, is a Van Morrison inner sleeve. Oh well. Anyway, there's the disc. Nothing on the Run Out Grooves. Threshold Records, 1972. Now, Moody Blues, Birmingham band, living out of the UK. I'll have to see if I've got a Van Morrison album. This has come out of that box I was telling you about. Oh, actually, here is the Moody Blues. No, that's a Wings. Oh, there's the Moody Blues inlay card, at least. Right, I'm getting my head around this now. I said this came out of that box of albums that I've got that I don't really know really what's in there. I'm rediscovering what's in it. It's something I acquired a while back, and I only begin to pick through it because it's been in storage for a while. But anyway, yeah, the record definitely is the Moody Blues 7th Sojourn. It's 1972 album. So the Moody Blues came out of Birmingham in the UK. Very much one of the forerunners of prog rock. Quite folky as well. They've got lots of flutes and that. You know, whereas kind of bands like King Crimson could be quite acidic. Moody Blues are very easy on the ears, and this is a very easy on the ears album. Very, very sweet, very good for 420 listening, if you know what I mean. Highlights on here, I love the track For My Lady. Is it New Horizons, Lost in a Lost World, I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band, that was the single off here. Yeah, just pretty good. Moody Blues, they tend to be best known for their kind of 60s commercial hit singles, you know, Go Now and Nights in White Satin, but you know, they're a band that should really, if you're into your kind of prog rock and your hippie stuff, you'd really explore into their 70s period, because they did do some fine and rather credible albums. I've got to admit, this isn't my favourite Moody Blues album. That will probably be Every Good Boy Deserves Favour, but I still think this one's pretty damn sweet. Yeah, 1970. the Moody Blues, the 7th Sojourn, 72, sorry, the 7th Sojourn. Okay, last CD. Here we go. I'll keep this one pretty quick because there's not really a great deal to say about this because it's quite a well-known album. This is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes. I think it's 1979. It says 2010 on here, but that's because this is the CD reissue, remaster, whatever it was. Anyway, there's the front, sorry. There is the back of the record. That's what's behind the disc. There is the disc. Whip out the booklet. There's the back of the booklet, by the way. Yeah, 1979. It's just lyrics, really. There's the credits. This is the album that kind of broke Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers internationally. Their third or fourth album, I think. Correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong. But yeah, they built themselves up a good reputation on the American West Coast, and then this came out, and well, the rest, as I say, is history. This is a great album. It's kind of soft rock and roll. It's kind of like yeah, it's a rock and roll album. It's not particularly heavy. Very, very friendly. It's good. The sort of music that I've got a theory that a lot of this kind of music the Americans do really well, because they've got those great big long roads with 55 mile an hour speed limits on. And, you know, whether you could go, I've got a friend of mine that goes into conspiracy theory that this type of music's played at this kind of tempo with this kind of feel to it because it sounds best at 55 miles an hour and it's done by the man to stop you speeding. But there again, I take the flip side of the same argument to turn around and say, well, because you can only drive at 55 miles an hour, there's no point in listening to speed metal. Write some music that sounds good at 55 miles an hour. And believe me, this is a great 55 miles an hour album. The opening cut, Refugee, probably the best known song off the track one of Tom Petty's big international hit singles. Shadow of a Doubt, A Complex Kid, probably my favourite cut on here. Although I do like What You're Doing in My Life. Got the lovely Louisiana Rain as the closer, and it's just really great. Besides Tom Petty, you got Ben Montench on piano, Mike Campbell on slide guitar, Steve Lynch on drums, Ron Blair on bass. Make for a tight unit. Yeah, tight as a Dutch arse, as I say. And yeah, just a sweet record. I do like Tom Petty. I do recommend that if you've not heard him before, you give him at least an experiment. This is a good album to try to start out with. And yeah, and if you want to drive at 55 miles an hour, stick this one on the hi-fi. Leads me to the final vinyl, and something a bit obscure. There's the front. This is St. Paradise by Saint Paradise. There's the back. Whip it out. Mastered by a guy who signs himself as Strawberry. It's just there on the run out groove, but there's no messages or anything, just catalogue number. Now this is the only album this particular band ever released. Basically, and it's all down to Ted Nugent, you know, the kind of redneck rocker himself. Derek St. Holmes and Bob Grange were Ted Nugent's rhythm guitarist and bass player respectively. Ted Nugent periodically, and still does periodically, goes off on one, sort of like sax, or in occasions threatens to shoot and commit acts of violence on some of his bandmates. Not a nice person. And after one particularly bust up, he threw Rob Grange and Derek St. Holmes out of the band. And they said, well, sod it, we work well together, let's put a new band together. Dragging in a guy called Denny Carmassi on drums, they formed St. Paradise, three-piece power trio heavy rock outfit, recorded this, their one and only album, in 1979. And it's pretty good. If you have heard bands like Triumph, The Rods, maybe some of Budgie's stuff, this is where they're coming from. It's that degree of heaviness. It's quite headbangable. It's you know, it's not kind of motorheady or tank intense, but it's pretty good. Cuts on here. This is a pretty sweet album. I'm trying to think who produced it. A guy called Mike Flicker produced it, and he's done a fine job of treading that fine balance that rock and metal needs between being kind of raw but kind of together enough to give it a, you know, kind of coherent listen. Cuts on here that are worth listening out for. The whole album it pretty is, but Tighten the Knot, Gambling Man, Jesse James, Hades, all pretty sweet tracks. Now, this album got a lot of good reviews. They came over to Britain, supported, I want to say Kiss, I may be wrong, but anyway, they came over to Britain and Europe, got some fine reviews. So I think it was Kiss they supported, and then did some own shows in their own right. Did a, I think it was Blue Oyster Cult they went around the States with as well, and then began to kind of think about putting a second album together. Then Ted Nugent kind of phoned up Derek St. Holmes and Rob Grange with sobbing apologies and offers of large amounts of money. They went back to the Nuge. Danny Carmassi, I can't remember exactly who he went on to, but he went on to another band to find sort of indigestion here, to find a relative fame himself. And that was the end of St. Paradise. Shame, because they, like I said, they had a lot of potential. They did one great album, but you know, at least they left us with one great album. Well, anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed what I've laid out before you. Remember, if you want to leave a comment or give me your own opinion of the albums or disagree with me or whatever, down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook, it's always good to hear from you. Links to radio shows are down there and over there as well, so have a tune in, and you know, and I will be playing some of the tracks off these albums on various shows over the next week or two, so I'll do link them together. So that's it. So until next week, peeps, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your mates if I'm saying anything interesting you think other people should hear, or hey, you should hear what he just said about this. So get annoyed, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, where the things are, you know, down there. Anyway, so until next week, peeps, love, cheers, bye.